All right, let's talk about a speaker, Kevin McCarthy. You clearly think this is a mistake, that he will, you are concerned about his speakership. What specifically concerns you?
Well, look, the speaker is second in line to the presidency, and at every moment since, frankly, the aftermath of the election in 2020, when Minority Leader McCarthy has had the opportunity to do the right thing or do something that serves his own political purpose, he always chooses to serve his own political purpose. And, you know, that extends to what we've seen just in the last few days with these comments about aid to Ukraine. The idea that somehow the party is now no longer going to support the Ukrainian people, which, you know, for somebody who has a picture of Ronald Reagan on the wall of his office in the Capitol, the notion that now Kevin McCarthy is going to make himself the leader of the pro-Putin wing of my party is just a stunning thing. It's dangerous. He knows better. But the fact that he's willing to go down the path of suggesting that America will no longer stand for freedom, I think tells you he's willing to sacrifice everything for his own political gain.
Do you think at all this is just gamesmanship? He just wants the Democrats to do it in the lame duck? Or do you think this is a reflection of an isolationist streak that's actually taking hold inside the Republican Party?
We certainly have isolationists inside our party. We have isolationists inside the Democratic Party as well. But leaders have to lead, and when you have the leader of the Republican Party suggesting that we can play with the fire of isolationism, suggesting that somehow the American people will not support the fight for freedom, which is the front lines of freedom right now happening in Ukraine, the battle between Putin and Zelensky. And the notion that he would be willing to embrace that, to enable it, tells you he's just not fit for the office.
I want to ask you a little bit more about what's going on. We have Iran now on the ground in Ukraine helping the Russians. At the same time, Iran sits on OPEC. Our supposed ally, Saudi Arabia, who doesn't like Iran, is sitting here making decisions that essentially are helping the Russians, helping the Iranians, hurting the West. What should our foreign policy be to Saudi Arabia right now, considering the current circumstances?
Well, look, I think first of all, we ought to absolutely and clearly walk away from the negotiating table with the Iranians. The notion that the Iranians are now providing these drones to the Russians to use in Ukraine, if nothing else has convinced us yet to walk away from the table, that should. It also tells us the Russians are having a hard time replenishing their supplies. And so the sanctions are working. We ought to do more. We ought to do more with respect to sanctions against Iran. But across the board, you know, I think that there are too many people around the world who no longer think that they can count on the United States. They no longer think that they can trust us, that we'll stand with our friends, and that we will ensure that we're standing against our adversaries.
I hear you. The Middle East, though, is really, it looks problematic from a U.S. when some of our closest allies are kind of neutral in this war, right? Israel has been sort of neutral, kind of helping late. Obviously, Saudi Arabia. How much of a problem do you view this as?
Well, it's a big problem, and I think it's a problem of American leadership. We need to be doing more faster in terms of what we're providing to the Ukrainians. We need to be very clear. You know, when Kevin McCarthy suggests that the Republicans are not going to support aid to Ukraine, that is incredibly damaging to America's standing in the world. It's damaging to the effort that the Ukrainians are engaged in. We need to demonstrate that the United States of America recognizes we have to be a leader in the world. We're not going to go back to the days of isolationism, which has been a threat in this country, you know, ever since the end of World War II.